Alright, round 2, basic strategy. One of the characteristics of basic strategies by using it will be considerably luckier than the average player. Edward Othor beat the dealer. Historically trained with the blackjack card counting books is first described with the basic strategy of the perceive of the good stuff. We wise men have said lead follow or get the hell out of the way. Who are we to argue? Here we choose to foray a long path forged by esteemed predecessors. At this point, with the readers unfamiliar with the rules of blackjack, divide with the consult with Appendix 1. The unfamiliar with the jargon blackjack will be find in Appendix 2 helpful to define the terms such as hard and soft, among others. Although you may be tempted to skip over the chapter and go straight with the knockout, so to speak, we urge you to reconsider the basic strategies as, and after all, the foundation of any card counting system independently. Indeed, especially for the knockout system, complete with knowledge of the basic strategy is essential because of the unbalanced nature of the knockout system. Most of the gain from the use of the knockout comes from making proper betting decisions. Is prevailed of the playing decisions with the KO. You will be making basic strategies play at least 90% of the time exactly. Basic strategy of the basic strategy system maximize the performance without keeping track of the cards under the best condition for the exact expectation. When achieved, the use of the basic strategy with nearly 0%, making the blackjack almost an even game. Basic strategy consists of the rules of the player should also always follow. Its objective system assumes that the card play with a freshly shuffled pack over the one or more deck with the optional method to play with acknowledging only cards of the player is holding with the dealer's up card with the perhaps information for the dealer's down card. For example, the up card its ace of the dealer does not have the natural. We know that there's non-10 in the hole. That there is a non-10 in the hole. House advantages versus player advantages. Instructed to understand how the casino makes the money in blackjack. Despite all the well-meaning fellow players or pit bosses may tell you, the house has only one advantage over the player. The player must act first, and if both the player and the dealer bust, the dealer wins. If it seems limited consequence, realize that the average player busts about 15% of the time. To counter the disadvantage, the player has several potential advantages over the dealer. The player receives the payment for 3 to 2 for the naturals. The dealer is paid off only 1 to 1 for his naturals. The player is allowed to play on his hand as he wishes. The dealer must hit or stand according to the house rules. Player can split 2 equally valued cards. The dealer cannot. Player can double down, the dealer cannot. The player can take insurance, and the dealer cannot. The player can, in some casinos, surrender his hand, the dealer cannot. The basic strategy that seeks to take maximum advantage of these options available for the player, the dealers play. For security purposes of the casino, like all dealers play with their hands with a chance of the rule management prefers the dealers have no say whatever to how their hands are played, with avoid the possible area of the judgment precludes collusion between unscrupulous dealer and player. The cover the house will always play with a fixed manner of the week. Know exactly what to expect with the dealer. Let's take a closer look at the dealer's play. In a mini casino of the United States, the dealer keeps it hitting until reaching a total of 17 or more. For this one, if the dealer reaches 17, he must stop regardless of what they're playing. Players have as their totals. Other casinos a variation in which dealer must continue hitting, and if the holding softer than 17, soft hands always contains an ace, which counts as 11. In this case, the dealer must hit until reaching total of 17 or more on hard hands and 18 or more on soft hands. Some casinos hit soft on 17 rule employed with a single to double deck games where the dealer stands it on all 17 multiple deck games. Rule enforced usually specified on the table layout. Now we'll read the article. Blackjack Falsification. The object is getting to 21 casino literature often mistakenly state the object of the game and to get the total 21 as close as possible without exceeding 21. This is a misleading statement. The true object of the game is to win you must beat the dealer's hand. And true that having the hand whose value is close but not exceeds a total of 21 means your chances of winning hand good, but often best strategy is to stand with the despair fact of the total for the far from 21, especially if the dealer has weak up card. In such cases, if the hopping of the dealer will burst and whereby you will be regardless of the total. Alright, we read that first paragraph. Since we know exactly how the dealer will play, cycling through the possible card sequence allows you to obtain dealer's theoretical distribution in figure 1 and 2 with a generated with a typical combinatorial analysis, assuming a pack of the 2 freshly stuffed decks We've chosen to that game, for example, because it serves an average of many games over casinos. First, let's look at the theoretical final distribution of the value of the dealer's hand. Looking at Figure 1, you can see that the overall dealer bursts at 28% of the time, assuming that we consider no information from the dealer's up card. Additionally, the dealer will reach the pat hand at 17 through 21. About 67% of the time, remaining 5% or so of the count for by naturals. Our Figure 1 shows the distribution final value of the dealer's hand in the two-deck blackjack game, assuming freshly shuffled package. Show the chances of final total 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and bust. And BJ, I don't know what that stands for. Blackjack bust 21. In reality, the dealer final outcome is heavily dependent on the upcard V, but the same combinational analysis were obtained in Figure 2 for the pages 24-25. We show the distribution of the dealer's final total of the function upcard to that game. Know the dealer is most likely to bust, showing a 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6 with as an upcard. However, under no circumstances show the dealer upcard 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, and 7. See, distribution values filed with the dealer's hand function of the upcard, assuming the fresh card shuffle it to deck back. So for the dealer have a high 50% chance of the busting, although 5 to 6 the commonly referred to with the dealer bust card, but the smart money is still on the dealer to draw with a pat hand. Furthermore, the dealer showing the upcard of 8 or more has a less chance of 25% chance of the busting. High valued upcard showing 9 or 10 ace. The dealer is very likely to make a good hand for the reason we say that the dealer show weakness of the upcard 2 or 3, 6, while should the dealer card upcard 2 through 6, and then alright, Blackjack Falsification deduce the dealer's ace. It's not uncommon for the hear of the dealer with the ruse upcard, but it is to say something like, remember the deuce of the dealer's ace. The remarkable use it may be a play, but it is about to decide whether or not to take another hit. The dealer's warning being able to almost likely to be make a pat hand with a 2 as an ace. The glance back at the dealer's hand charts will verify that is not true. The ace so far is away from the strongest card with the dealer, while the 2 falls somewhere in the middle, with the 2 up to the dealer's about 35% chance of the busting. Hands up, chances only about 12%, and with an ace shown, even within the dealer's doesn't have the natural chance of busting. It's only about 17% deuces. You're no ace. Dealer shows the strength of the upcard with the 9 or higher, with almost worthy noting with the breakthrough that occurs between the upcard and 2 and through 6, and the upcards 7 through ace, and form of the final distribution dealer's hand similar to any of the non-symptom function upcard, with in either case the dealer most likely outcome in the burst of later with the final distribution fairly sensitive to the function of the upcard. Each case they has here the dealer must likely outcome would achieve a hand equal to 10 plus the upcard value. This has led to the monomical crutch that tells us to assume the dealer has 10 in the hole. You will find it helpful to familiarize yourself with these figures, and it's important to realize, for example, that the dealer is more likely to reach a total of 20 than if the upcard is a jack, the opposed to a 5. On the other hand, the dealer is more likely to bust an upcard of a 6 than an upcard of an ace. Basic strategies and rules. In principle, each basic strategy decision is calculated with the cycling through the possible ways of the playing of the hand, choosing the one of the greatest expected return. This could be repeated every possible set of the playing conditions and kind of generate a different basic strategy for each possible blackjack variation kind, while most of the basic strategies are created in play, specifically to either single or multiple decks. In practice, we found is memorize one generic basic strategy table. This is because of the gain of memorizing additional variation very minimal, with the total addition of gaining through 300% overall in the knockout system. We are striving the best blend with the simplicity of the power of the recommended you for the generic basic strategy, which will be applicable to all games. For handheld single decks, 8 deck shoes, complete with the general basic strategy chart presented with the table on the page 28. To apply with the basic strategy table, locate your 2 cards, hand on the leftmost column, then move the card for the entry with the corresponding with the dealer's upper card. For example, if your deal when an ace 7 soft 8 if the dealer has 5 of his up cards, you should double down if possible. Otherwise, you should stand. General basic strategy chart. I'm going to print that out, actually. Okay, I can't. So, alright, you have your standards and S, hit and H, double down, split, or surrender, and X and Y. Do X if possible, otherwise do Y, and then it shows the rule. For the second of finishing the page, we'll come back to this, Marcus, and then general basic strategy rules. Never take insurance split pairs. Always split a pair with aces or 8s. Never split a pair of 10s or 5s or 4s. Never split pairs of 10s, 5s, or 4s. Split 9s against the dealer's 9 or less, except 7, and split 7 against the dealer's 7 or less. Split 6s against dealer 6 more or less, except 2. Split 2s and 3s against dealers if dealers 4 through 7. Double down with solve 17 or 18. Double down against the dealer in 3 through 6. And with solve 15 or 16, double down against the dealers 4 through 6. With solve 3, 14, double down against the dealers 5 and 6. With 10 and 11, double down total more than the dealer's up card. If the total is more than the dealer's up card. With 9, double down against the dealers 3 through 6. Never double down with hard 8s or less. With hard hands with 7 or more, always stand with the 12 or 16 hands against the dealer's up card of 7 or more. Otherwise, stand. The only exemption to this rule is to hit hard 12 versus the dealer's 2 or 3. With 11 or less, always hit unless doubling. With soft hands with soft 19 or more, always stand. With soft 18, hit against the dealer's 9 or more, and otherwise standing unless doubling. With 7 split soft 17 or less, always hit unless doubling. I have to come back and write down that chart. Alternatively, if hold the 7 to 7 dealer shows as the up card, you should split with a pair instead of the hitting of 14 basic strategy memorized. This is not downing of the feet, but a dawning feet, as you might first think. And in fact, you are at least casual player with a probably know with the almighty with the several general patterns observed with the will, aid with the understanding with the memory of the basic strategy with the first month split occurs against the weak dealer. Up cards and excesses, aces and 8s are always split. Splitting an 8 often with a defensive play, since the more hand of the 16 is potentially converted with the 2 reasonable hands. Splitting aces most offensive with the mediocre hand converted with the 2 strong ones, pair of 4 and 5s and 10s. Never split, doing as so would generally weaken the hand. Of interest of the play with a pair of 9s, we go ahead and split them with against 6s or less. In this case, splitting offensive the manual of those who are trying to keep the dialer from the high his deal down. Against 7 as we stand the chain of the dealer bursts busting. With 7 they're up much lower with 2 through 6 up roughly 26 to 40% versus 40%. Furthermore, the change of the dealer reach of the total exceeds exactly 17 rises dramatically to 37%. Hence, there's a good chance that 18 will win slimless of the margins against 8. We split 9s and often more move. Splitting against 9s against 9s is an attempt to salvage loose hand against the 10 or an ace. We take a deep breath, stand with our 18 that there is no much else to be weighed for the likely co-op due to the craze. Doubling down plays typically occur with against the weak dealer up card with the introduction of additional wager of the most warranted. We generally double down and expect within the hand to expect only one hit. Let's look at the hitting and standing strategy relation relative to the dealer's percentage of cards. If you're holding a stiff hand at 12 to 16, generally against a strong holder of cards, and likely to reach a pad at total of 17 through 21. However, against the weak dealer up card, generally stand with the forcing of the dealer to draw with the increase of the frequency of the busting, with against the good mnemonic crutch. Though not always true, with the holding of the stiff is to play your hand, assuming with the dealer with has 10 in the hole. Responsibly, a rule of thumb given with them are 4 times as many of the times any other card in the pack. Judicious basic strategy play. We'll try to finish this up in 13 minutes. Some players have trouble adhering with the basic strategy of the one of the rule, particularly when they have a hard time understanding the hitting of stiff hands. For many of the particular difficulties, hit with a hard at 16. Since the player has such a great chance of busting with the easy to bulk with the talking and a hit, especially with the dealer 7 showing with the dealer 7 and it's not strong, their reason so the risk busting with the ulterior motive, of course, is to last longer. You play right. In fact, with the strategy will account for the play with the overall play less overall with an increase of the loss rate, but then it turns out with the saying with the 16 versus 7, the player loses about 48% and 48 cents to every $1 wagered. On the other hand, hitting a loss of only 42%, now the difference is 6 cents. Might not be seen like much, but added up when $25 bet out of making an incorrect play with the situation will cost you an average of $1.50. Looking at the choice from the term the one chance of loss and tie percentage rather than the dollars and amounts, analysts show that the players will stand with only with the dealer's busting probability 26%, hitting and chancing on winning increase with a 27% with a roughly 4% chance of pushing overall. That may seem like better chance of standing with a 16 versus a 7. Most of the time would gain only a brief respite before dismissed. Sometimes in the case of the correct basic strategy, the lesser of the two evil to note, with the playing card basic strategy will turn bad hands into good ones. Its proper basic strategy tends to minimize the loss on those bad hands. Or Blackjack Falsification right away. A colleague visiting Foxwood Woods Casino one evening witnessed an interesting series of events. A young college student had been playing with the better two over the part of 2 days. Shoe after shoe fell on the wood, cashing the profit of the previously serious hands. As the college approached the college gate, was waiting to lose just one shoe so he could go home. A poor guy. An individual using the betting progression made with erratic strategic planning by double down on a hard 12 always. While doubling down on a hard 12 was a very poor play, he couldn't seem to lose. He was already up several $1,000s. While after watching the college fellow win over the course of several more shoes, the college decided to pass his luck by backlining the play. But backlining is a procedure allowed in some casinos by which you can wager along the play with the player making the original wager, adding by the way he plays his hand. The player kept doubling hard 12s, but also kept winning on the next few hours. Even though the heroes were lucky for the time around, the misplay of the 12 adversely affected the expected return. Apparent hot streaks are hard to resist, but there's no way of knowing that they're about to end and how long they will last. There's no way to capitalize on them in the long run. Hunch players will always fare worse than players employing the correct strategy. Similar line of reason can be applied with the other basic strategy plays, and the end of the comparison expect with the value to determine the best option. Your basic strategy must be felt with exactly the no room with a superstition hunch of the even if given in yearly, even if you hit 16 versus 7 3 times in a row, busted each time, you got to do it again and presented with the same situation. On the other hand, the last time you hit with a 16 versus 7, you're hooked at a 5. You may feel inclined not to press with your luck. Here again, you must foul with the long run. It is into the basic mathematical play. Do not lose your emotions. Be your guide. This is exactly what casino wants. A word of insurance, a basic strategy said with never take insurance, but don't even consider that despite whether the casinos would have you better leave. Insurance is bet solely whether or not the dealer has natural sympathy already showing whether you have the warrant wagering, whether or not the dime card is 10. The insurance is neither increases or decreases with the chance of the winning of the main bet, but as much of the taking insurance with a strictly side bet, whether or not you win. Main hand play with the compilation with the dealer for the natural, then insurance play is 2-1, but the main hand is lost and left you 2 have a natural push if the dealer doesn't have the blackjack insurance. Bets its loss and the main hand is played over the normal fashion. Either way, you can see that your insurance must bet does not buy you anything on the main hand. Blackjack Falsification. Insurance insure the good hands. Of course, the consumer wants players to make poor wagers and such. The insurance promote the way to guarantee a good hand, but in reality, holding the good hand is often the worst time to take the insurance. For example, consider the 2 possible scenarios. First hand out of the shoe. The first scenario, you are dealt with 2 and 3 with the dealer ace showing. Second scenario, you're holding a jack queen versus the same dealer up card. Question in which case you should take insurance. Another, neither but you are both likely to win insurance wager while holding the hand 2 and 3. This is because the other case you are already holding 10 valued cards with a so chance the dealer has 2 as cards is corresponding similar. Alright, you can easily estimate the disadvantage and show with the knowledge of the cards played, but assume the remaining cards with a roughly same proportion on the full pack. Regardless of the number of the decks of the chain with the down card being 10, the 10 Jack, Queen, King is roughly 4 to 13. On the other hand, the chance of the down card is not 10, the ace through 9 is 9 through 13. On the other hand, the chance for the down card is not 10, it's ace through 9 is 9 to 13. The expected outcome of each dollar wagered on the insurance is roughly 4 plus 13, 2, 1, 13. I don't know where they got the 2 and the 1 from, but I'm starting to understand it. Insure the sure winner, Blackjack Falsification. The taken insurance for the holding blackjack, so-called with the evenly money payoff with a power play with a lay. Say you've made a wager of $100 dealt with a natural with the dealer as the ace shown. If you take with even the money, you will win $100 richer. On the other hand, if you insure the natural for 50 or 1 or 2, things could happen. The dealer has a natural, in which case the natural pushes the but natural in the case of the natural push, but you win $100 insurance bet. The better dealer does not have natural. In this case, if the natural wins 150, but you lose 50 on the insurance bet. But in this case, you win $100 ahead. Many players who never take insurance do not take even money, but in realizing that they are won the same when you're holding a natural. Sounds logical since insuring blackjack means with it so you can't lose. In fact, some of the dealers go so far as to say it's the one sure bet in the house. But the catch is you win less on average, but doing so, expected outcome is insuring the natural of the profit of $1 for every $1 wager the main bet. But when you don't insure naturals or expected outcome of each $1 wager is a profit more than $1 roughly. Expected outcome 4-13, which was your kings and jacks, and 0 through 9, which was your cards less than 9 plus 1, 3 twos plus 3 twos, which was, I don't know where they're getting the, and then you get a 116 average return of 126, clearly greater than the sure return of 1. Unless you need the money to buy the baby new pair of shoes, in which case you shouldn't have been betting anyways. It's best never to insure the natural if you're playing according with a basic strategy. You expect to lose 113 for every win wager dollar insurance for the corresponding expectation of nearly negative 7.7% or loss of 7.7% per dollar. While any other information about the deck composition insurance should never be taken. Basic strategy strength. You can expect with the return purchases when you play backstrap with the basic strategy. It depends on the agreement with the rule you're playing. The number of the decks being dealt with the rule of the force effect with expected return for almost all games in common with the basic strategy player expectation between negative 7/10 and positive 10 over the percent over the majority actually between negative 6% and negative 0.6% and 0%. We generally found with the table's guide with the estimating with the approximately effect of the rules variation on the basic strategy played with the table of the generated stipulation. Assuming general plastic strategy should be used with this guide with the effect of the rules variation, often depending on the number of the decks played. We have assumed the average effect of the purpose of the construction of the table of page 37 of the benchmark. Instead of the rules referred to of the Las Vegas Strip game in the top deck expectation is effective with the 200%, make it nearly an even game. To take the estimate expectation variation particular game, you can give with good approximation start with a benchmark adjust for any rules exchange by simply adding the effects. Typical Atlantic City, Foxwood, Connecticut game, the difference of the benchmark is usually 6 to 8 decks or the show the approximate effect of the rules, variation, general basic strategy, exacts, and show the decks. Allowing double after splitting, how can we estimate the expectation 8 deck for the following? Benchmarks -2, 250, 500s, and 13 plus 1300s, you get 44 per approximate player. For downtime Reno game, typically rule the dealer hits the soft side of the team and the other dealer hit, but the same rules remain the same, and players may double down only with the 2 cards hold with the 10 and 11 for the 2 decks. Reno game expectation significantly worth benchmark game. Approximate player expectation for single deck Reno game. The expectation is about with a negative 4,300% of the ballpark with a multiple deck shoe game with the East Coast of Las Vegas with a trade-off with a list of trade-off like this. Multiple deck games you have the liberal rule of doubling and splitting the rule with the alternate single deck of the games imposed with the restricted doubling. Common play with the can be often found within same casinos rule variation casinos from the signifying with the impact expectation, hence for the earning with its independent finding with a favorable card counting condition of it described later in this book. Recommended to always playing with the best available the game, though through the may be required with a good difference of the casino with the often need the short walk around the pit. Uncommon with a single casino the offer the range of the games. Basic strategic expectations differ from 300% of the 0.3% of the before that we take a look at some of the entry for the effect with the rules variation table, the few words of effect with the multiple decks in order, while the same basic strategy does multiple decks games the worst expectation of the single deck of the Peter Griffin theory with the Blackjack. Give the 3 primary with the natural 21 occurs less frequently in the multiple deck packs. Doubling down is less advantage if the multiple deck packs, and judicially standing evidence instead of is less advantages. We just about reached our time limit. We'll stop right there. It's got 10. Testing.